So I have a lot of scraps of dried leather hard and I'm going to reclaim it because I'm not going to use it. I think what I am doing though, just to show you, I'm keeping a few scraps that I kind of reprinted them just to make the design a little deeper. And I'm going to test out some my underglaze techniques before I put them on here so I can just decide which one I like the best. So see, these are a few of my underglaze colors, and you do want to pay attention and make sure it says underglaze, not glaze on it. Those colors, when you fire them, might look very, very different. So for example, this particular underglaze, when it's fired, it turns jet black. It looks dark gray, but it's actually jet black when it's fired and out of the kiln. To figure what combinations work, what the colors actually look like when they mix together. And my plan is to paint a dark color on each of these tiles and then let that dry and then sponge a lighter color on top, so the raised surfaces will have like a lighter color. So I'm not going to demonstrate all these, I'll just do one to show you. Let me pause this. So what you're going to need to get started is obviously some brushes. I like to use soft bristle brushes for this, something not too hard. Oh, there's powder on that, yikes. And also you're going to need some water, some clean water, because you don't want to cross-contaminate your brushes. I recommend that your test tiles, which are already stamped, cut up, cleaned up, all the hard edges or all the rough edges are just kind of cleaned up because you don't want to scratch yourself when these come out of the kiln. A rough edge can become like glass. It can really hurt you. Have that all ready to go. And I like to put a paper towel underneath or some kind of paper underneath because I don't want to get underglaze all over my towel here. So I'm not going to demonstrate all of these, but if you notice, I've stirred this up really well. So it's completely, what happens is there's oxides in here, metal oxides, and they tend to sink down to the bottom of your underglaze. So what you have to do is kind of give this a little bit of a stir. You know, if someone just stirred it a minute before you, it's good to go. But if you're the first person using it for the day, you want to stir that up to make sure that it's ready to go. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paint this on and fully coat the surface of this piece. And I'm just kind of dabbing it. So what I'm not going is going back and forth to the point where I'm going to wear down the clay. But I want to make sure I fully coat this so I can see that there's some areas that are blank. It's hard to do this while you're filming. And making sure that there's no blank areas. I don't care so much about the sides, but if I see like a little spot right there, I'm going to make sure I fill all those in right now. You can see that as this dries, even if it had like little puddles of liquid, those all go away, but I want to make sure that this is all completely cleaned off. And then before I move on to my next tile, again, if I'm using the same brush for another color, I don't want to dip this in, another color. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here and really clean that up like that and get all that water off of there too, because that water creates an issue. So I'm going to paint all these. You don't have to watch me do that. And then I'll show you the next step in just a minute. So I painted my test tiles and they all have a base coat of underglaze, and what you're seeing now is I'm taking a hairdryer to them. You could either paint them on one day and then wait the next day, or if you are interested in getting this done on the same day, you definitely want to make sure all that base underglaze is completely dry. So you can see there I am just picking up the tile and just showing you that the underglaze on all these is completely dry. And now I'm ready to apply a second coat of underglaze. And my goal here is in the raised areas, what I'm going to do is sponge a lighter color on top. So I've got myself a sponge that I cut up there, and you can see that I recommend don't use a hard sponge. Just get it a little bit wet and then wring out all the water so it just has a soft, squishy kind of feel to it. And off in the distance, you can see that I have some lighter colors of underglaze set up in smaller cups, and later on we'll put lids back on those, and if you run out of a color you can always add more. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your sponge and decide which underglaze color you want to use. And what I've done is I've dipped the underglaze in there, and you can see that there's like a glob of underglaze. So I recommend wiping some of that off. Sorry, my camera went off to the side. And then what I like to do in addition to that, and hopefully I showed on the camera here, is there's still like too much underglaze on that sponge. So I bring it over to the paper towel and I kind of just dab it on the side. You see that? So I'm just kind of getting any excess underglaze off. So I just have a little bit on the surface, and you're not going to press hard. You're just going to press very softly because you just want to deposit the underglaze on the raised surfaces. So you can still see the colors underneath. So you're not really pressing really hard. See, I'm just kind of dabbing it. It's not going to be a perfect, you are going to get a little bit of color, in some of the depressed areas, and that's okay. Like let it kind of go. Don't try to clean it up. You'll drive yourself crazy. And then when you run out of the underglaze color, you just go back, get more, and again, dab it on the paper towel, and then just keep adding more. And just keep adding that to your piece as I'm showing in the video. And I'm just speeding up the video a little bit because it's pretty much the same process. So I'm just gently dabbing it on, and then taking the underglaze and dabbing it on the paper towel. When I'm all done, I clean my sponge in a clean bucket of water before I move on to not cross-contaminate colors. So they're my test tiles. They're ready to be fired in the kiln once they dry out. I think the last thing, I just have to put my initials on the back of each of these so I know they're mine. And they filled in the cracks a little bit more than I wanted, but you know what? I kind of like the way that looks, and I'm just gonna go with it. Just because something didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, doesn't mean it's going to be a disaster, but I'm super excited to see what these look like, and I'm glad I did these combinations before doing my final firing because I don't know which color I'm going to choose right now. Oh, I'm kind of excited. So stay tuned and we will see what the last thing looks like. Cleanup. While this is happening, you're going to put lids on these so the underglazes don't dry out. You'll clean out your sponge. I'll have a place to put those and all your water, and just put everything back away. And then when these dry, we'll put them in the kiln and go from there. All right. I BIS filed the tiles to cone 04, and here are the final results, as you can see. So here I am painting my piece of greenware very carefully with a soft brush. I really want to caution you, it's actually probably better to fire the piece first before doing this. You can paint the underglaze on, but moving it around like this, you could break it so easily, and I have done that before. I'm very clumsy, so I recommend firing it and then underglazing it, but I'm taking a risk here and painting it. So here's the final piece before I loaded it into the kiln, and I ended up using multiple colors on top of the sponge. So I'm excited to see what this looks like after I fire it.